Fed up with hauling and pouring liquids? Want a reliable pump to make life easier? Want it simple, affordable and easy to make? Then keep watching. Hi YouTube, my name's Jeff and today I'm going to be looking at how to build a simple PVC pump. Now I specifically wanted to move vegetable oil from containers like this, but this pump design will easily handle water or other suitable liquids. I've tried a lot of cheap pumps such as drill pumps and syphon pumps, but I found these didn't work that well. I wanted something specific to my needs. I found two really good and helpful videos on YouTube. The first is by Grant Thompson, and this is an excellent tutorial, well worth the watch. The second is by Philip Stevens, and his simple engineering approach was the real inspiration for my design. But I do owe a lot to Grant as well, as you'll see as the video goes on. Now Grant's design is probably technically better than Philip's or mine, but he uses rubber O-rings. Now rubber and vegetable oil don't get on that well, and the style of Grant's pump just didn't really match my needs. Philip's design was exactly what I was looking for, though clearly he was concentrating on moving large volumes of water and using low-tech parts. To meet my needs, to create a PVC pump that shifted an impressive amount of oil but still slotted easily into the mouth of an average QB, I was able to take elements from both these designs and come up with this one. And it works an absolute treat. I nicknamed it the ping pong pump because, as the name suggests, it uses a ping pong ball to create a check valve. Hopefully this animation I've created for you should explain everything, but you can see the table tennis ball at the bottom there acting as a check valve, and another one on the piston, the handle that goes up and down. It's basically about two opposing check valves working in opposite directions and the vacuum created in between. So let's get on with the build. With this pump, it's important to realise that it's all about the table tennis ball. It's all about the dimensions, which is exactly 40mm. It shouldn't fit down the pipe, but it nearly should. Now here's the list of the parts that I used to build this. Everything is UK spec because I'm here in the UK, but as I say, for you international guys, be governed by the size of the ping pong ball. As I say, as far as I know, internationally it's a standard size 40mm, but I know that's about 1.5 inches, but what that translates to in pipe fittings, wherever you are, I don't know. So get yourself a ping pong ball and head off down the hardware shop and have a look for yourself. So here's the reducer, which of course goes inside the connector nice and snugly. Now the ping pong ball will of course disappear into the connector because the connector's too large, which is fine, but it will be a perfect fit inside the reducer. Look at that, that's a nice tight fit, a wonderful check valve. We need to remove these lugs on the connector on this occasion. When I use a file or a Dremel, there you go, nicely smoothed out, and then we just use little solvent cement to connect these two together. Now we don't want to push the reducer all the way in, just enough really, and you can see it there, just been pushed in just until it holds really. We need this space inside, and there we go, the ball inside the connector, and there's our check valve. Nice, isn't it? It's as easy as that. Now you can see the ball not fitting into the pipe, but the connector going over the top nicely. So if we put the ball back inside our new fitting and we slot that onto the pipe, then you can see there's the ball inside. Now what we want to push that onto the pipe just enough. Can you see that little gap? We only want a little gap, a tiny bit of movement. Push it just until it's there. We don't want it too snug. Then we mark it with a pencil, and there I've marked it with tape afterwards. Now on this side of our check valve, we don't want the ball to form a good seal, so we need to remove some of the material, just a little with a file. With that done, the liquids can flow past the ball happily. All we need to do is cement on our connector, making sure we leave enough room for the ball to move, and then our check valve is complete. Now if you watched Phil's video, and you really should, you'll notice that he used wood to make his plunger. Well, I wanted to use plastic because it's just that little bit more durable. Now I took an offcut from the pipe and I heated it using an ordinary air gun. Now I'm going to fast forward this video because obviously this takes a while, a minute or so. And do remember, when you're heating plastic, do it in a well ventilated area. You also might want to wear gloves, as obviously this pipe gets quite hot. Now in a moment I'm going to actually take this pipe and I'm going to flatten it out with my hands, as you'll see. Here I go. The plastic is really pliable at this point. Now I'm just going to touch it with a little more heat, and then I'm going to take that piece of wood that you can see in the background and I'm going to squash the plastic down. Now, using both hands, pressing firmly, and again I'm going to speed this up because it waits about a minute for it to cool. But after that, you'll find that the plastic is now nice and rigid, nice and solid for us to use. So we've now got some plastic we can work with. So using an ordinary hole saw that's just a little bit bigger than the size of the inside diameter of our pipe, we can cut ourselves out a couple of plastic discs that will go towards making our plunger. Here you can see one of the discs, and as I say, it is too big for the pipe, so we need to reduce it. Now an easy way of reducing it and keeping it nice and circular is to add it to a bolt, put the bolt into your drill, spin the drill round and touch it to some sandpaper until you eventually get a plunger that's just the right size. Now this one is a little too snug, but you get the idea. Now I repeated this process twice more until I got 6 pieces of plastic. I glued them all together, and look what a nice plunger that makes. Now that's just right, that is. Not too tight that it drags, but not too loose that it rattles around. Now here you can actually see the penny washer, and this is going to form the check valve part of our plunger. Again, this is too big, so using the same process, shove it in the drill and file it, or if you're really brave, use an angle grinder, but we can end up with the penny washer being just slightly smaller than the size of the plunger. It needs to be just slightly smaller to give it a little bit more room. Now add a nut rather to our bolt, and the penny washer of course can no longer sit nice and flush, which is now good. So we need to increase the size of the hole in this penny washer, and to do that I'm just going to use an ordinary step drill. There we go, you can see that's increased in size, and now that will slot over the top and fit flush on the plunger again. Now I can actually take a second washer at this point. This is smaller than the first washer, and that goes on top of our nut, and then we can put another nut on top of that, and there's the makings of our check valve. You getting the idea? That large washer there, it rattles around, it moves nice and easily. So if we take our plunger, drill a series of holes in it, just like that, as you can see, that will let the liquid through, which is what we want sometimes, but sometimes we don't. And that's where the large washer comes into play. That will stop any liquid, let it through, stop it, see what I mean? So we now put the other washer back on, put the nut back on top, and you can see we've got the makings of a nice check valve there. So all we need to do now is attach that to a piece of dowel. Here's the dowel, and there it is attached. There's our plunger all completed. Moving on to the body of the pump now, the pipes can be cut to match your specific needs. Don't neglect the head section. This is important to the operation of this style of pump, as it retains some of the fluid and allows for a constant flow. The fittings are connected using solvent cement, and here you can see the reducer that allows for the outlet pipe. There's a connector that goes onto the head section that allows for an access cap. Now this access cap is going to be the lid, if you like, for our pump. Now this access cap has actually got a rubber seal at the top, which we want to remove. So here I use the screwdriver, and we're going to reinforce this cap to make it a bit stronger. So making a couple more plastic discs, we can glue these into the cap, making sure that they're smaller of course than the diameter of our pipe, otherwise it won't fit. So if we bore a hole the size of our dowel, and there we have a perfect cap. Place onto the body and everything's done. That's pretty much a finished pump. However, the piston is bottomed out right now. The plunger is touching the ball at the bottom, and we don't want this. It's a bad practice. So we need to make a stop to prevent this from happening during operation. Now I just used a piece of the 22mm pipe. It was a little too large, so you can see I've cut a thin section out, and I'm just going to glue and screw it. I'll just use 2-part epoxy adhesive to do that, and we'll set it aside dry. In the meantime, using the hole saw and a chunk of wood and our drill method, we can make a very nice little handle for the top. So there we are, we've trimmed the dowel down now. You can see I've put a screw in to support it, and in the top I've just let a little bit of a hole in there to make a perfect fit. There we go, and there it is, all finished, looking pretty good. And does it work? Yes, it works a treat. My son Michael here, he's at a slightly awkward angle, and it's the first time he's ever done this, but you can see it's really shifting some fluid there. He's going at quite a slow, steady pace, but it's doing well. Probably at the pace he's going there, you'd probably shift 20 litres in a couple of minutes, I should think. It doesn't look very fast at that angle, but trust me, there's quite a bit of fluid coming out. He's only 13, I dragged him away from his Xbox to do this, and I haven't exactly made it easy for him, so thanks Michael, you're a good lad. And that's your lot, you're all done. You've got a working, affordable pump that you can customise to your own needs. There's a couple of points and tips worth mentioning about this particular style of pump. Firstly, this is a liquid pump. That's why it has a head section. You can modify it to pump air if you want to by adding O-rings to the plunger, but to be quite honest, you're probably better off sticking with Grant's design if air is what you're after. Secondly, there is a little leakage at the very top of these pumps. Because of the head section, the plunger rod itself gets covered in liquid. When you pull the handle up, raising the plunger, most of the rod is drawn through the lid of the pump, where some of the liquid can drip or splash off. It's nothing major, it's more an inconvenience really. You can minimise this by making the hole in the lid as close to the diameter of the plunger as possible. But remember, you will need to leave some clearance, otherwise you'll get excessive friction. And of course, you also need air behind the fluid. So if you did do this, you might need to drill a couple of small vent holes. Personally, I hold a small scrap of cloth around the body of the pump to catch the drips. It's way more convenient than pouring after all. Another tip here is the fact that after you've finished pumping, it's important to remember that there's still liquid inside the pump. You'll feel the weight of this at the time. Some liquid is trapped above the ping pong ball and some is still left inside the head section. Over a handy bucket or container, simply press and hold the ball at the bottom of your pump, and just for a few seconds, and that will release any trapped content. And at the top, just simply undo the access cap, pull out the plunger and pour everything into the bucket. It's as easy as that. One final tip, and this is particularly for you veg oil guys out there. Veg oil is strange stuff. When it dries, it can become sticky and gluey. This will certainly stop the ball moving if you leave the pump dirty and unattended for any length of time. My advice is simple. When you've finished with it, empty out as much of the oil as you can. Then take a few litres of white spirit or even diesel and pump this through the pump in the usual way. This will dilute any of the oil that's left inside the pump. I tend to keep a container of white spirit just for this purpose. I make several passes, then I pour the white spirit back into the container that it came from, ready to use next time. Finally, I break the pump apart, wipe everything clean with some paper towels, and the pump is ready for use on another day. So that's it. I can't think of anything else to say on the subject. If you do have any questions about this project, do feel free to drop me a line. I always maintain I'm no expert, but I'm happy to help where I can. If you enjoyed this tutorial, give me a thumbs up and like this video. Drop me a comment below and ideally subscribe, because that would be great. If you didn't like this video, then why not drop me a line and say why? Perhaps I can improve it next time. I've got about 30 videos out there now, so do look out for my YouTube channel. If you're interested in the subject of veg oil motoring, then have a look at my website www.VegOilGuy.co.uk, which tells the story of how I got into veg oil motoring. So once again folks, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video and thanks for watching.